This podcast is rated S for spoilers. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to the Half Past Podcast. This is episode 6, the movie review of Ted 2. I'm Graham Ricks, and here with me is my friend and co-pilot Ian Jones.
You know, I found an old teddy bear that I had, and it's like 30 years old. And it's in worse shape than I think Ted is, so I'm not sure how they keep them together.
It's kind of weird. We all had those teddy bears as kids. Although I never had a Teddy Ruxpin.
Oh, how did you not have a Teddy Ruxpin?
I don't know, to be honest. Like, our parents were just like, nope. I think my sister had one, though.
That's BS. Every kid has to have a Teddy Ruxpin.
Before we get into the Ted 2 trailer, our trailer for this week is Pixels, the new Adam Sandler movie. Okay, so I really don't want to see this movie, but we're going to give it a try.
Oh, wow. You don't want to see it?
Well, the only reason I want to see this movie is because I have the respect for the video games, and
right.
I thought the special effects were just kind of like a cool way to do it, which I hope that doesn't just get old fast, but it's possible.
Yeah, it might. And I think one of the concerns with this movie is, are they showing us the best things in the trailer? And that's always an issue when you talk about comedies.
Yeah, and that happens in a lot of comedies, and I hope that this isn't one of them, because it's got to be at least attempt to be funny. I hope so. You know, I am not a fan of Josh Gad. I do not like that guy. The only time I thought he was okay was as a snowman. But
I didn't even think he was okay as a snowman. I don't understand why Hollywood insists on pushing Josh Gad on us.
I don't know. And the first time I saw him was actually in 1600 Penn, which is probably one of the worst TV shows ever made. It's absolutely terrible.
It's pretty bad.
I remember I got about 20 minutes in, and I was just like, I can't believe I'm still watching it. I gave it a legitimate shot, and I just couldn't watch it anymore. It's like Josh Gad is supposed to be like a Jonah Hill type character, but he's just not that appealing. Like, Jonah Hill just has an aura about him that makes you want to keep watching him. Josh Gad's just the opposite, yet they try to do the same type of character.
Well, I think Josh Gad makes Jonah Hill likable. The fact that he's so unlikable to me makes me want to see a movie with Jonah Hill in it instead. And that's tough for me. He's kind of like the love child of Jack Black and Jonah Hill.
Oh, wow.
And no one wants to hold that baby.
Oh, that's so bad. And it kind of reminds me, that 1600 Penn show is almost as bad as that Couples show. You remember when I went over to your place to watch Couples?
Was that what it was called? Couples?
It was called Couples. They put it in the same time slot as around what was it? Parks and Rec and 30 Rock.
30 Rock.
And I hadn't watched 30 Rock yet, and you're like, hey, you need to come over, we'll watch 30 Rock. And so I came over, but you had to get through Couples to get to 30 Rock. And it was just so bad that I actually just left your house. I was like, I can't do it.
I remember I was like, well, just put something else on.
No, I walked away.
And you left completely. I was just like, oh.
That's the only show that I can think of that actually hurt the ratings of the shows around it. It had to have done that.
Well, they do that all the time. You know, they try to stuff something in between some things that are good. You know, it's like how Fox tries to make you watch Bob Burgers.
Oh, wow.
Because they shove it in between Simpsons and Family Guy. And I'm sorry, it isn't Archer and it isn't Home Movies. It isn't even Home Movies, which not enough people see.
Are not a fan of Bob's Burgers. No, I think it's an okay show.
It is awful. Really, especially in comparison to The Simpsons and Family Guy.
Well, yeah. Those are better shows.
Not even close.
Although The Simpsons have dwindled down for years now. And they're still getting... They signed on for more episodes. It's so weird.
You know, the other thing that we haven't really, since we got away from the trailer, and I think we can agree that Josh Gad is awful.
Oh, yeah, Josh Gad is terrible.
And he's probably a terrible human being, too. The other thing is, the other two stars in this are Adam Sandler and Kevin James. Yeah. And they just haven't been making really good films lately, so I really want this one to be good because it's such a fun idea, but, you know, let's go check it out and see.
Yeah, and the thing about this one is kind of the reason why I'm even giving it a shot is because it looks better than the past few Adam Sandler movies, like several Adam Sandler movies, which are just all bad. And I'm hoping this one is better, because this one just, in the trailer, it looks better than the other ones. I mean, it's got to be better than the one where he plays like his sister also, which is just, God, it's so bad.
Yeah.
He has been doing a terrible job lately, and it's just, man, some of his movies I feel like are passable. Like, you know, I don't mind what Big Daddy and like Click, I don't matter, you know, I don't care that much.
Click, I didn't even make it through. With my parents in particular have an odd habit of walking out of movie theaters, which I've only ever done one time, and getting their money back.
Yeah.
Which is pretty incredible because they aren't really movie critics, but that was definitely one of them. Click is awful. And it made me wonder.
Click is passable.
It made me wonder if Adam Sandler or Christopher Walken could be funny again. That's how awful I thought that was. And those two in a scene together should be able to figure it out.
You'd think so. All right, Joes, I think we've gone way too long on this Pixels trailer.
Which doesn't even really address the trailer itself.
Well, we did go on a tangent, but that's all right, because we can go ahead and get into this Ted 2 review.
All right, good.
Newlywed couple Ted and Tami-Lynn want to have a baby, but in order to qualify to be a parent, Ted will have to prove he's a person in a court of law. This movie is directed by Seth MacFarlane of Family Guy fame. And I got a question for you about Seth MacFarlane, Jones.
All right.
When is he going to just sit down and just write a full musical like The Book of Mormon, a la Matt Stone and Trey Parker? This movie starts out with a dance number. And I'm still trying to figure out why Seth MacFarlane hasn't just gone full Broadway on something. It seems very appropriate for him, because even in just Family Guy and in American Dad, like, that comes up all the time. It's like he needs to just write one.
Right, yeah, and it wouldn't surprise me if, you know, he does do that. And I think there should just be like a Family Guy musical.
I think he can pull something off. He obviously enjoys doing that kind of stuff. So I feel like he needs to just go ahead and dive deep into the pool there and just do it.
I mean, if the guys on Duck Dynasty can have a musical, and, that's after coming out and saying some things about the gay community who is acting and starring in the musical, and then I think he should be able to get something going.
You would think so. This movie starring Mark Wahlberg as John. He was in Boogie Nights, Planet of the Apes, and The Departed.
He's in The Other Guys, which is definitely one of my favorite comedies.
Yep, I love The Other Guys. Did you see the trailer for the new movie that has him and Will Ferrell again together?
I didn't. Which one is that?
It's a trailer that's like Will Ferrell plays a stepdad.
Oh, yeah, that one did play for me.
It doesn't look like it's going to be as good as The Other Guys, but out of respect for The Other Guys, I am going to go watch that movie. We'll have to do that one, man.
Okay, no way is it going to be as good as The Other Guys.
Oh, The Other Guys is one of my favorite comedies. It's so good. Next up, we have Seth MacFarlane as Ted. He's in Movie 43, A Million Ways to Die in the West, and obviously all the Fox animated series he's been doing.
He can act, he can sing, he's a real strong vocal talent.
He is.
And he's a first-class show-off.
Yeah, he is. And speaking of these movies he's been in, if he keeps showing his face, people are going to start recognizing who he is on the street.
Which I think he doesn't want. It's
right?
He likes being famous enough so that he can meet people like William Shatner, and that he can have Patrick Stewart say some really disgusting things.
Yeah.
But I think he genuinely doesn't like fans knowing where he is.
Yeah, and if he keeps showing his face, man, it's gonna turn into a thing.
Maybe he and Keanu Reeves could be in a movie together.
Wow.
They could be brothers.
What the heck would that movie be about? That would be interesting.
I think it needs to be like a weird buddy cop thing.
Kind of like that one movie, Hollywood Homicide, which I feel like I'm the only person, like me and my sister, that actually saw that movie.
A very small percentage of people went to go and see that movie.
I actually enjoyed that movie. Harrison Ford and Josh Hartnett. Such a weird combination of characters.
It is.
I thought it was pretty fun. Amanda Seyfried as Samantha, who's been in Mean Girls, Red Riding Hood, and In Time with Justin Timberlake.
Yeah, she's also worked with Seth MacFarlane before, and so he's getting in this pattern of directing the same actors. Giovanni Ribisi and Amanda were in A Million Ways to Die in the West with him.
Yep. Jessica Barth as Tami-Lynn, which, by the way, is a very unappealing name.
Jessica Barth.
Jessica Barth.
Well,
it's just...
all you have to do, I think, is take a look at her and you can get past the last name.
She's been in Next, which was a straight-to-DVD Nicolas Cage movie, huh?
Oh, yeah, good. Those are always great.
Get Smart, and of course, the original Ted movie. Next up, we have Giovanni Ribisi as Donnie, who was in Saving Private Ryan, Gone in 60 Seconds, and Flight of the Phoenix.
I think I liked him in Gone in 60 Seconds the most.
Yeah, he's really good in that movie.
He also gets kicked off Pandora in Avatar.
Yes.
They send him packing, and I always wondered how that conversation went when he returned to Earth. Like, I think there had to be a really awkward conversation with like him and like a Senate subcommittee.
Oh, I'm sure. Next up, we have Morgan Freeman as Patrick Meighan, who really doesn't need any kind of introduction or anything. He's an extremely successful movie star. But I'm going to go ahead and say Driving Miss Daisy, The Shawshank Redemption, and lots of narration work.
He's the star of Edison Force and Chain Reaction.
Yes.
Also with Keanu. Hey, everyone, what's the name of that terrible Keanu Reeves movie?
Oh, man.
I've never seen so many blank stares at me.
You know, when I was working with you, we had our own offices, and you decided to yell out, "Hey guys, you remember that terrible Keanu Reeves movie?" And
right.
Nobody said anything because we didn't know which one you were talking about.
The answer to the reference that I was trying to remember was Johnny Mnemonic.
Johnny Mnemonic, which is definitely a bad one. Sam J. Jones as Sam Jones. He is known for Flash Gordon and a bunch of TV roles.
Where does Sam Jones end and Flash Gordon begin?
Nobody knows. Patrick Warburton as Guy. He was in Men in Black 2, Underdog, and has also done a ton of voice work.
Yeah, he's a regular in Family Guy, and he also played the Tick.
Yep.
And I always wanted to see him play Jaime in the Get Smart sequel.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Michael Dorn as Rick, who was also in Rocky, Star Trek, of course, and Ali.
He does not look like Scott Bakula. I don't care what you say, Graham.
I'm telling you, if you put a picture of Scott Bakula and Michael Dorn right next to each other, there is a lot of similarities. It's just like the nose is a little different. That's it. You never see them next to each other ever, right?
You know, it's funny because I don't think anyone really, unless you're a Star Trek fan, would know the significance of Michael Dorn, I think, being in the film.
Yeah, and we'll get into that later because I definitely have some stuff to say about that.
Okay, all right.
Last but not least, we have John Carroll Lynch.
So he plays the bad guy in charge of Hasbro, and he's a fantastic actor, and I will never forget the part he played in Zodiac because he has such a small role at the end. And the interview he gives with the police, the response he gives on whether or not he is the Zodiac killer is chilling. And so if you haven't seen that, that's definitely worth a rental.
Well, you know, I wanted to see Zodiac, and I'm surprised you even brought that up because I'm pretty sure that has an actor in it you hate.
It does, yes. But it has two that I like, so I think that cancels Gyllenhaal out.
I can't believe that you went to go see a movie with Gyllenhaal in it. You don't like Gyllenhaal at all. That's crazy. Now that we're done with these characters, Jones, let's go ahead and get into our quirks and likes. Alright, let's get into our quirks and likes section. So let's start out with one of my quirks here. One of my quirks with this movie is that it's very similar to a lot of sequels where they basically just ramp up what was previous. And I feel like Seth MacFarlane needs to get a little more creative when it comes to stuff like that. I'm sure he's capable of doing it, so I don't know why it just seems like everything is just ramped up to a degree of the first one. And so I actually preferred the first one over the second one, even though both of them I'm kind of indifferent about.
I think maybe that's just true of sequels in general. That's why, for me, I thought it was refreshing that he did like A Million Ways to Die in the West.
Yeah.
And he was actually in it as opposed to playing an animated character. Although that movie is not even close to Blazing Saddles, so it really surprises me that they would do a comedy western when I think really his wheelhouse would be like some comedy science fiction.
Yeah, I would think that would make a lot more sense for him to do a comedy science fiction movie, because that's just a lot of his stuff is just the nerdy stuff anyway. So it makes sense that he would do something like that. And, maybe he will get into that. And maybe it'll star Neil deGrasse Tyson in it at one point in time.
Yeah, that'd be good.
The other quirk I had about this movie is that it's a little too much Seth MacFarlane for me. It has a ton of inappropriate offensive jokes wrapped up in this feel-good story, which Seth MacFarlane always does. And he always puts these morals in that, even though it's surrounded by all this scatological type humor.
Right.
So it's in this one, it's just a little too much. So the stuff that I was really amused by was all the stuff that wasn't that. And I feel like he needs to just get a little bit smarter with his comedy, and maybe I'll enjoy his movies a little bit more.
Well, if you look at the three writers of this, you have Seth MacFarlane, Alex Sulkin, and Wesley Wild. And these are all guys who have done a ton of episodes together on Family Guy, and I think Wesley moved over to the Cleveland show at some point.
Yeah.
But they all wrote the script together. They all produced it. So it does feel like a big Family Guy episode.
It does.
Just to finish that thought, that's either a good thing or a bad thing, I think, depending on whether or not you're a fan of Family Guy.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest issue with this movie, in my opinion. It just seems like I've just kind of outgrown a lot of the Family Guy stuff, and so it just seems like I want a little more from Seth MacFarlane. There's definitely funny parts in the movie, but it's just kind of I want more than Family Guy from Seth MacFarlane. And that's actually all my quirks, Jones. So what are your quirks?
Okay, well, the B plot to this movie is about Donnie trying to steal Ted and give him back to Hasbro.
Yeah.
And there's a character, Tom Jessup, who plays one of the heads at Hasbro.
Yeah.
And he essentially agrees to Donnie's plan, that if Donnie can capture Ted, he'll cut him open and discover how to make Ted dolls for every boy and girl. And so I think my first quirk is that I'm stunned that Hasbro would vilify themselves in this manner.
Well,
because I think the trade off there is real slim. They're getting a lot of exposure, but they're talking about killing a stuffed animal for making profit.
Yeah, and I when I was watching the movie, the entire time I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, man, Hasbro has a huge chunk of this movie, but man, they're basically the evil corporation. So why the hell isn't it just Mattel? And so then...
Okay, go. Yeah.
So at the end, towards the end of the movie, he says that. The head of Hasbro is just oh, well, I work for Mattel. And I was like, oh, okay, there it is. Because I was spending the whole time thinking, why is it this Mattel? That's the evil corporation.
And then he runs away, and it's whatever. He gets away with it.
Yep.
And I think now all those Transformers sequels make sense to me. That this is just who they are, I'm thinking.
Oh, man.
I think the other thing, which I'm not sure if it's a quirk, but it's definitely something that I had an issue with, was really pacing. The movie's 115 minutes, and I think it's just too long.
You're right. I mean, it probably should be an hour and a half. It's rough.
There's a whole scene, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, but they could have completely cut out the Jurassic Park and Three Amigos references.
Oh, yeah. And those references were actually, I thought those references were really amusing. And I feel like if the movie was a little more of that, it probably would have been a better movie.
There were a lot of scenes, too, of them smoking pot. And it just didn't seem like, I get it, but let's get to the rest of the story.
Yeah, there's just a little too much of that in there. And it just, I don't know, the movie is it needs more meat on it. It seems like throughout the whole movie.
They also have, I thought, too many scenes in the courtroom. Like, why did there need to be 2 trials?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That leads me into the other thing, which is something that it ticks me off every time I see it in, Law and Order is a huge offender of doing things in courtrooms that just don't happen. My cousin Vinny's got a big one. As a kid, I spent a lot of time sketching, sitting as an audience member and doing courtroom sketches because of the careers my parents had. And all of these movies, they just get really basic things wrong. And it just drove me nuts to see this courtroom stenographer over there banging away on the keys and her paper isn't even moving. And I get that those machines would be making a clicking sound and you don't want that, but give me a break.
Oh, that's terrible.
The whole reason why Ted's human rights status is brought up is because they're trying to adopt a baby, which they talk about in the trailer. But I think the thing is, to get to that point, we have to find out that Tami-Lynn's ovaries don't work because of excessive drug use.
Yeah.
And the only reason why the baby topic comes up is because they are having an awful marriage.
Terrible marriage.
So, where they're throwing frying pans at each other and breaking bottles and, in a funny way, doing a 180 of how our culture is tackling these issues of domestic violence.
Yeah, it is.
So I would have to say that if there was a third Ted movie, I think it should have a tagline like Ted 3 Daddy Daycare. And they combine both franchises. Ted and Mark Wahlberg could just be divorced dads trying to open a daycare center.
Oh my God.
And it would give Cuba Gooding Jr. a job.
Oh man, what the heck happened with Cuba Gooding Jr., man? God, he was just like so talented, and then just, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not doing any more Academy Award style movies. Screw this.
No, or watchable movies.
Or watchable movies.
But, it's weird because at the end of this thing, they are just okay. Their marriage is totally fine. Like, it worked. But it seemed like they were in a pretty bad spot.
Yeah.
I think my last quirk is, could you sleep in a car if it was swerving violently and drove up on the guardrail and then slammed down?
Yeah, when that happens, they cut to a scene where Mark Wahlberg and Amanda Seyfried just kind of moves a little bit, and that's their only reaction. And it's just kind of like, there's no way. Like, they must be the heaviest sleepers. Like, I'm a heavy sleeper, but I feel like I'd wake up on that.
Right. Car was flying through the air. They didn't wake up until it crashed into the barn.
Oh, man. This movie.
Okay, I think we could get into likes now.
All right, so if that's all your quirks, let's get into the likes here. I really have basically one like in this entire movie. But it does have a lot of stuff in the movie that corresponds with it. And that's basically just the nerd references. All the nerd references are great in the movie. I really enjoyed Patrick Warburton and Michael Dorn at Comic-Con dressed as their counterparts, beating up on nerds.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Hilarious. I was laughing so hard at that part. Every time they cut to them messing with it, I was just laughing my ass off. And the thing that's so weird is when they first appear, you see Patrick Warburton as the Tick, and you see Michael Dorn as Worf. And I was like, I felt really bad because there was not a chuckle in the theater. And I'm like,
oh
you
my
are
God,
kidding me.
I know.
You are kidding me.
I was the only person too. How was I the only guy in that movie theater? Because we both saw it, in two different cities.
Yeah.
I was the only one who chuckled. Obviously, no one was in on the joke that they were dressed as their own characters, which I thought was fantastic.
I felt like I was an old man. I'm like, how does people not remember the 90s TV show of The Tick with Patrick Warburton dressed in it? Now, there was a cartoon show, but there was also the short-lived live action. I can't believe there was not a peep when they showed up. And I'm like, that is insane. That's probably the funniest part of the whole movie, and nobody said anything.
I know, it's amazing. It was such a great idea.
It was.
Too, and no one got it.
Nobody got it. I couldn't believe it. The other references that were nice was just all the stuff with Amanda Seyfried where she was, they kept referring to her as Gollum, basically. That happens a lot throughout the movie. They come across it about 3 or 4 times in the movie, and then she actually sees Gollum and just gets scared up at Comic-Con.
Well, and that's something too. That's another thing where a lot of references in this film are really Family Guy references. And that's one of the things they did. And so I like that, she could joke around like that. There's the scene with Tom Brady where, he basically says to Tom Brady that he didn't think there was anything wrong with his balls, but he was talking about, his footballs.
Footballs, yeah.
I don't think you're a cheater. I find it funny that they were saying things that could have been a sore subject to a lot of the people acting in the movie.
Yeah, and I also enjoyed all of the Rocky stuff. The fact that his name was Ted Clubberlang, and the fact that, again, with Amanda Seyfried's character, where she doesn't even know about the Rocky movies at all. And so I thought that was just another good part. And even just her name being Sam Jackson, and they kept referencing Samuel L. Jackson. And it's just like, all those scenes are just real fun scenes. And even just I also enjoyed seeing Nana Visitor from Deep Space Nine. She plays the adoption lady, which I'm sure nobody got. But it was just like, there's another Star Trek reference right there, just with having her there. The other part that I thought was funny about this movie was just the scene, because Liam Neeson has become a character now, and the Liam Neeson trick scene I thought was pretty amusing too, because it went on like for a while, and I'm like, wow, this is actually kind of weird, but I kind of like it.
Well, and that was actually one of the things too, the Liam Neeson callback. He goes into the store to buy the box of tricks, but he's concerned that because it says tricks are for kids.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want any trouble. But I was really hoping there would be the callback in the movie. Like, I thought for sure he would come and save Ted.
I thought he was going to come and save Ted also. I definitely thought that he was going to come back. Like, definitely during the scene where Donnie first gets to him and he's at Comic-Con, I was thinking that Liam Neeson was going to come up and save him. And just like thanked him for the tricks or whatever. And that didn't come back. So I thought that was really strange that it didn't come back up again. But I did enjoy the scene.
Yeah, they waited, I guess, until the end credits to actually bring him back.
Yeah.
And no one stayed for that. Just like no one got the Tick and Worf joke,
No. The other thing, I guess the last like I have here is just the scene where Marky Mark decides to fake his death with the doctor. I was just like, that is just freaking hilarious. Like, I was just laughing like crazy, man. It was just so funny that he would do something like that. That's just so insane that he would do that. And that's actually all my likes for this movie, man. So, what do you got?
I think one of my favorite things, you touched on it earlier, but I almost want to see a movie with just Patrick Warburton and Michael Dorn. Their day-to-day routine where they're just like jerks to everyone.
Oh, man.
I think I really liked that, it had the music of Walter Murphy. He's been working with Seth for a really long time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think he's really one of the reasons why when Family Guy does a musical, it's so good.
Yeah, he's the musical stuff that he does is always good.
The Comic-Con nerd fight, I think, even though I was complaining about pacing, I could just watch that for like an hour. Where you have all these guys in costume from totally different genres just breaking out into an all-out fight. And I love that, like, Patrick Stewart and Kirk were going at it, and
yep.
The nerds finally got back at Patrick Warburton and Michael Dorn.
Yep.
You touched on it earlier, about Amanda Seyfried not getting references really to anything.
Yeah.
And I thought that was so true of like an attractive girl not knowing what the Star Trek, what the Enterprise was.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Or not getting that she almost ran over a stormtrooper, and that it doesn't make any sense that a stormtrooper, Darth Vader, and Obi-Wan would all be friends walking together in the crosswalk.
Yeah. It's definitely it's like I was saying, like all of the nerd references in the movie is actually the best part of the entire movie. I feel like all the other stuff he could have just cut out and it would have been a better movie.
Yeah, I think that's really it for likes too for me.
All right, now that we're done with our quirks and likes, let's go ahead and get into the ratings. I thought Ted 2 was very okay as a comedy. I actually thought the first one was more tolerable, but if you like Seth MacFarlane's work and you like the first one, I'd say go ahead and give it a rental. If not, skip it.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think unfortunately this is one of those movies where you have to be a Seth MacFarlane fan, to really get a lot of the references, and just from the audience not responding to a lot of stuff in there obviously weren't enough science fiction fans there.
Yeah.
Just because there were crickets, and like I'm the only one who's getting something because it's a really obscure reference.
Yeah.
And that is Family Guy to a T. That, the reason why there are so many really diehard fans is that they will do these obscure references that are really clever and, some really nice callbacks. But yeah, I agree. I think this is a very good rental. So I would say rent it.
Yep. All right, now that we're done with our ratings, I want everybody to please go to halfpasspodcast.com.
Like us on Facebook.
Rate us on iTunes, 5 stars.
We're on Stitcher, and Stitcher's working again.
Oh, man. Yeah, Stitcher.
And we are on Libsyn, which has been working the entire time. Thumbs up.
Email us at halfpastcast@gmail.com. That's halfpastcast@gmail.com. Go ahead and send us an email so that we can improve the show. We'll even answer questions on the show.
Tweet us at halfpastpodcast.
Thank you for listening, and thank you for your support. Next week, we have Terminator Genesis. We're finally going to see this Terminator movie that we've been seeing trailers for.
And a very brash teenager working at the movie theater that I go to is very insistent that this is going to be the best movie of the summer.
That's saying a lot.
And we'll see. He's very arrogant about it, that 19-year-old punk.
This is the Half Past Podcast. I'm Graham Ricks.
Jonesy.
See you next flick.